Aveda Pitamadas means, as I said, that you have Tamadas, but you are telling the Tamadas. You must identify and recognize that this whole Tamadas, this whole orientation that you have identified, there is a divine ingredient, divine truth. It's a divine creation. Even though all you see is the worldly identification. And here is where the avodah comes. We have to avoid it in your own intellect, in your own nefesh, your own thought process. Recognize the divine element in this whole orientation. Rabbi is going to explain this before we. Avia Bitamadas Lasois Habiru Benefesh Abbas.
Tam Vedas is Tam Vedas is taste.
I'm saying
Tam Vedas.
Tamadas, reason and knowledge. Lasois Habiru Benefesh Abbas, to affect the birur, the purification and the clarification in the Nefesh Abamis itself. A little bit we discussed this yesterday, but ultimately the birur Nefesh Abamis is, the Nefesh Abamis hangs on to these elements that it can identify with. And you mevarer it and you teach Nefesh Abamis to recognize that all that you're hanging on is really a divine being. It's not worldly. It's not worldly created. And therefore you have to incorporate in your activity, in your identification, a divine element. Just to start off, before you eat, make a bracha. You're going to eat the same food, but make a bracha. Recognize where it's coming from. Recognize what it stands for. Amen. Here it is. This is a whole avodah. It is not a very simple response to Nefesh Abami's orientation. Let's go inside. Behind that refers to, that is ho'avoido. This is the avoido. Again, this is not merely learning about it, but working it into your thought process, working into your orientation, working it into your sense of reality. Avoido. Avoid of tefillah, of davening. And what happens in avoid of tefillah? He is born in his belokus. When you are contemplating and recognizing elokus b'inyonim in such inyonim sheheim ba'asov b'dav. To recognize elokus in such inyonim that are b'hasov, that are comprehensible, not inyon elokus that are super worldly, but within the world you are present in orientation. Recognize the inyon elokus. And this is in the Avodah Tefillah. What is the Avodah of Tefillah? The word Tefillah means relating, connecting. Yes, indeed. This is the first step in this. Yes, indeed, I can see a world. It's very real to me. But then I step back and say, what is this world doing over here? What gives it its presence and its right of being? What's the basis of its existence? What kind of existence is a worldly existence? And what is his buoyant feeling? His buoyant feeling is that everything that I identify in my world, I immediately relate it and recognize how this is the Rebbe's presentation, Rebbe's creation. Heute Hashem Kiru Vishmei. Recognize Hashem, Kiru Vishmei, calling his name. Make his deeds known in a nation, among the nations. And then what are you going on further? You start listing all the things that the Rebbe did made in the world. It's the same world, but your approach and the identity of these things in the world is from a different angle, from a different base. Not that I'm accepting world as such, and I'm going to orient myself within that reality of world. The world itself needs justification for its existence. This is the Avodah. And this is an Avodah. This is not merely an argument. Because initially, and after initially, it comes back all the time. We look at world, we see world. We don't see anything else. In order to recognize that world has a divine element. It represents a divine element. It has no basis of existence but for the divine spirit that allows it. This is an Avodah. Avodah means labor. You cannot take for granted the fact that I understood it, therefore I have it. That's not true. Because your initial orientation, so to speak, the basis of your thought, of your view, is a physical view. And to you, the physicality itself seems to be real on its own. And if you accept it that way, you drown in worldliness. Avodah is you question your own preconception, your own view, your own physical cognizance. Is there reality in this physicality? How come it's there? Where does it come from? No matter how well one understands it, it does not permeate our orientation, our thought process, except with Avodah. And Avodah means Avodah means service. Recognizing God wants me to see the world this way. It is not my own intelligence that I'm pursuing. God created the world so that we see the world from a godly perspective. And that is what the God is asking. It wants.
To remain on this call, press 1.
That's it. Nobody there. This is called avoida. Avoida is to change one's own orientation. Avoida is not only to confront an enemy, to confront one's own blind acceptance of worldliness. B'hizbonet melakus b'inyonim in such inyonim shehem ba'asoga davka, in inyonim in the lakus that are comprehensible, which means it comes into your seichel rather than in a super perspective. Like we say all the time, for example, day and night are worldly realities. It's a continuous cycle. But one has to be misboin and recognize that there is a divine element in this whole cycle. And this is not a super perspective. It is right there. You could see that day and night are a divine creation. As we point out all the time, day is not merely physical light. Day is a divine creation. Only God can conceptualize of such thing as day. The world cannot create such an entity. The world can create light, but not day. And this is where the hisboinus comes in. That one, by hisboinus, it's an avoida. It is forcing oneself to focus and orient yourself in identifying world with a divine ingredient. Although these are the worldly things that you readily understand, and yet you are bringing into it a divine ingredient. That is avoida. So this is what the Rebbe says. In order to confront the nefesh habahamis, which absolutely has access, and the Yetzer Hara has access to your koiches pnimiyim, you have to then confront it at its own game and show it how koiches pnimiyim also have a divine element. And force the nefesh habahamis to acquiesce with that divine requirement. Such as only looking at things which are permissible to be looked at. Only eating that which is permitted to be eaten. Only eating only with the bracha, recognizing in everything the divine ingredient, the divine presence. That's avoida. And this is an avoida. But this is avoida pitamadas. This is in order to effectuate a birur in nefesh habahamis. Give the nefesh habahamis a sense of its own truth, of its divine ingredient. That yes, indeed, you see a world, but this world has a divine element in it. This is true avoid. Again, I want to point out the way this is acquired, the way this is learned, is by taking instruction from the REBBE, from the Torah, rather than approach it from a worldly perspective. Show me in the world how it is. It doesn't work that way. This is the argument of the Nefesh Abamis, to try to keep you stay in the world. To try to keep you oriented that the world is the basis of your reality. But the world is not the basis of your reality. You have a neshama, you have a nefesh, you have intellect, you have chokhmah, that gives you a completely different basis for that reality. A divine basis for that reality. That is a transformation. That is called avodah. And this is mevared the Nefesh Abamis. Mevared the Nefesh Abamis, it actually permeates the Nefesh Abamis and forces it, and ultimately enables it to change its primary orientation. The primary orientation is not world. The primary orientation is divine element. This is what the Rebbe says. For this purpose, the compound Nefesh Abamis, the Nefesh Abamis, for this we have the Aveda Pitamadas. Normally we say Aveda is Lamana Pitamadas, like we originally said. But there's also Aveda Pitamadas, where you're focusing on the world. Like Tefillah begins to identify things in the world, but identifies things in the world with the divine spirit, the divine ingredient. He creates day and night. We don't begin from day and night and then say where it comes from. We begin from the Creator. He creates day and night. Because our primary orientation is Him rather than the Yemalaya, than the physical world. This is the inner for Avodah, to be Mevarim Shabbat, to change its primary orientation. It is not day and night that force you to recognize godliness. It is your cognizance of godliness that retranslates day and night. And thus, when you look at day and night, you right away come saying, He creates day and night. This is not a worldly reality. And as we discussed many times, when you reflect on it, you see clearly that day and night is a divine level of existence. It's not a worldly level of existence. That is the Aveda Pitam Das, and it creates a birur the Nefesh Abamis. We started talking about birur. Birur means clarification. Picking the Nefesh Abamis and identifying its things and putting it in the proper perspective. Yes, indeed, you see day and night. But please recognize what you are seeing is not a worldly reality. Where does that come from, this day and night? Who conceptualized day and night? Can world conceptualize day and night? Can world create that whole orientation? No, it cannot. It doesn't even have the means to understand it after it is there. Like you spoke yesterday about space and distance and all that, it exists in the world, but it's not a worldly creation. When you reflect on it, you see this is a godly presence on the worldly level, in the worldly level. A pitamadas. And that is mevared nefesh habahamis, and lifts the nefesh habahamis and forces the nefesh habahamis to see what, in fact, is the basis of all those things that you experience. Like we said yesterday, space is not speed times time. It's a creation, it's a real thing. This reality is provided to it by its creator. I'll take a minute to help us focus in on this term of creation, a creation and a creator. When you take a written book, there's a whole bunch of writing in it. The writing is a physical writing, consists of letters and so forth. Despite the fact that what you see is letters, but recognizing that these letters were written, you immediately recognize that what creates these letters is not the letters. Nobody writes letters in order to write letters. And the letters were not conceptualized as such. You immediately see that there is, this is a creator. Creator is the spirit that creates it. The spirit that initially conceptualizes it. It's not letters. It's not even words, it's not even sentences, it's a whole concept. This is the meaning of the word creation. You look at it from the creator's perspective. What initially imbued him to create it? Where does the whole concept come from? Completely different orientation, different reality. This is the Hizbonah, this is the Birun of Shabbat. You think the table over here is in order for you to eat supper? No, the table here is part of the reality of this home. Because a human being lives here. This is what effectuates a Birun of Shabbat.